program, saying it violates international agreements and infringes on U.S. sovereignty. And coming up in the House tomorrow, we expect debate on land exchange bill for Southeast Arizona. Live now to the House.
Privileged report from the Committee on Rules for filing under the rule. Clerk will report the title.
Report to accompany House Resolution 444, resolution providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 1904, to facilitate the efficient extraction of mineral resources in southeast Arizona by authorizing and directing an exchange of federal and non-federal land and for other purposes.
Referred to the House calendar and ordered printed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the proceedings will resume on motions to suspend the rules previously postponed. Votes will be retaken in the following order: H.R. 320 and H.R. 1160, each by the yeas and nays. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion from the gentleman of Alaska, Mr. Young, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 320, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
House Calendar Number 55, H.R. 320, a bill to designate a Distinguished Flying Cross National Memorial at the Marchfield Air Museum in Riverside, California.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
The House is voting on a bill related to the Distinguished Flying Cross National Memorial, and that's under construction at the March Airfield Museum in Riverside, California. One more vote after this one. President Obama is in Las Vegas today talking about new rules to make it easier for homeowners to refinance their mortgages by cutting the cost of refinancing and removing caps to give borrowers greater access to the program. Congressional Quarterly writes that the president's refinancing plan echoes a bipartisan plan from senators that California Democrat Barbara Boxer and Georgia Republican Johnny Isakson have been pushing to allow Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to let borrowers take advantage of low interest rates and refinance their mortgages even if they owe far more on their houses than they're worth. We'll have the president speaking to residents in Las Vegas after the House is out here on C-SPAN and right now at cspan.org. And looking ahead to later in the week, the White House says the president will also announce executive action to help students better manage their student loan payments. The Congressional Republican Health Care Caucus held a briefing today looking at two programs aimed at covering uninsured Americans. Congressman Michael Burgess of Texas chairs the Health Care Caucus. Here's part of the briefing during the vote.
I'd like to do two things today. One is to give you an overview of the uninsured, and also to tell you about an innovative program in Nevada called Access to Healthcare Network. But first, newsflash. HHS tells us just a couple of months ago that the uninsured can't pay their hospital bills. Is this news to anybody? And those bills are passed on to all of us. Again, newsflash. Not news. This is just a couple of months ago. So who are the uninsured? And I'll go through this quickly because I think Dr. Burgess, as usual, did a fabulous job of this. The Kaiser Urban Institute has told us that there are 50 million uninsured as of 2009. Just over half of those are under 138% of the federal poverty level. And if you look at my slides, you'll see in the orange section, that's about half. The other half are between 139 and 400% the federal poverty level. Where are the uninsured? Unfortunately, they're in the southern part of our country. They're also scattered throughout. How much does it cost? If you're paying for your own health insurance, so you're not getting it through your employer, how much is it? Well, according again to our friends at Kaiser, just over 10 years ago, it was about $2,000 per individual and about $6,000 for families. Now, it's more than doubled for single and tripled for families. So that means over $5,000 for single coverage and $15,000 for a family. Think about paying that bill a year. So we know who are uninsured. Why do we care that people can't or don't buy insurance? Well, they're less likely to receive preventive care. They're more likely to be hospitalized. They're sicker and they have much higher mortalities. And, hearkening back to good old HHS, our uninsured problem costs all of us more: hospitals, healthcare professionals, and consumers. I love this. I don't know if you can see it on your slide deck, but it's the greatest little note that came out of it's not a note, it's a billboard, a giant billboard that a hospital paid for, and it says, "ER wait times you can trust." Are you kidding? This is what hospitals are advertising right now, emergency room wait times. And there's a little note here at the bottom that you can probably see better when you're driving in your car and you see this thing. You can text us to find out what the wait time is at your ER. I think that's pretty sad. But wait a minute. Here comes health care reform. Isn't this going to solve all of our problems? Well, let's say we start with 50 million people, and for argument's sake, let's say that they're right when they say about half of those people are going to now be covered under health care reform. Of those roughly 23 million, again according to the Urban Institute, those 23 million, 40% of them are eligible for coverage and not accessing coverage. I remember during health care reform, I went into a meeting with some high-level officials at HHS and told them about what I'm going to tell you about in a minute, this access to health care program in Nevada. And they said to us, "What if we put you out of business?" And the answer from Sherry Rice, who was the head of Access, the CEO, said, "That would be wonderful." Because they're not. Health care reform isn't capable of doing that, not in its entirety, and it took about 2 or 3 years for people to start to admit that. So, where are the solutions? We've been wrestling with this issue for decades, especially the last 2. I posit that there are solutions. Where? You should look to the states. The problems are complicated. The solutions need not be. Think of the state solutions as pieces of a puzzle. Finally, let's talk about access. Access is the only not-for-profit medical discount plan in the United States. It's not health insurance. It's not an entitlement program. It's a public-private partnership. In Nevada, in only 3 short years, Access has helped 11,000 people, 3 years, 11,000 people get comprehensive health care. And Access signed up 1,800 providers to do that. It gets better. The model is self-sustaining. It pays for itself in just 3 years. That's in Reno, where it began, and they're expanding it to Las Vegas. Also, important about Access to know, and this is a big also, is only 1.5% of Access members go through the emergency room unnecessarily. 1.5%. And I'll tell you how they did that. The way they did this, in a nutshell, is what they call a shared responsibility model. Sherry's going to kill me for putting her picture up, but I'm going to do it. As Sherry likes to say, we ask something of everybody and try not to overburden anyone. Who makes it work? Again, I told you it's a public-private partnership, so lots of people make it work. The members make it work because they pay a monthly membership fee. They take the responsibility. If there's a no-call or no-show to your doctor when you have an appointment set up, you are kicked out of the program. That is made very, very clear when you meet with your caseworker when you come into Access as a member. That's part of the deal. If you don't show up to your doctor's appointment, you're out. Providers, how they have skin in the game, is that they offer enormous discounts. And I'll tell you what those are in a moment. The community has given a tremendous amount of money through a patient care fund and also through direct care dollars that they contribute. So, for example, with these huge discounts, if there's a small amount, it takes less money to cover more people, your donation is going to go a whole lot further. You're going to be able to care for a lot more people. The government programs also put funding into Access because there are some things the government can't cover. By their rules, by their nature, Ryan White is a good example. Access will cover the things they can't cover. Employers, the banking, and the insurance industry are also heavily involved in Access. So it's everybody. It's everybody in the picture of health care. Employees can put their employers on Access. The banking industry developed an HSA so people can save money for when that time comes when they need health care. And the insurers have a referral. They have a separate thing to give to people who come in and say, well, I can't afford your insurance. Well, go to Access. Here's in your packets, again, is the shared responsibility depiction, which I think is very useful to take a look at. So who are Access members? How do you get to be a member of Access? You must be currently uninsured. You must be able to show proof of all income, such as a pay stub, income tax form, child support, and other money received from any other source. You have to live in Nevada and show proof of the residency, and that proof can come in the form of a utility bill or a rental agreement, and you must show photo ID. Also incredibly important, and if you look in your packet, there is eligibility income guidelines in this form. So how does it work? Members pay their membership fee, and they show up. Access gets low rates. The members pay in cash. That's right, I said it. They pay in cash at the time of service. Because of Access's excellent work, they have also become the one-stop shop in Nevada for referrals. They have a 1-800 line, and they take all these people together, and Phil will tell you a little bit more about how his group does this as well. But that's what they do. They're so good at it that they're referring everybody to where they need to go, whether it's Access or through government programs. There's this cartoon recently caught my eye. It says, everyone agrees to help reduce health care costs. And the patient says to the doctor, I can't afford the diagnosis. Do you have a cheaper one? Well, that's funny for us. We're laughing at this and thinking about it. In Nevada, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what Access does. They find a cheaper diagnosis. So, for example, for an inpatient hospital stay, non-Access members would pay about $50,000. Out of your pocket, right? No, you usually go into debt. $50,000 for a 10-day hospital stay. But Access members pay $3,000. $3,000 compared to $50,000, that's a huge discount. A hysterectomy, $20,000 to $45,000 off Access. On Access, $1,800 to $3,500. For a broken ankle, $25,000 to $35,000 in Nevada for a broken ankle. It's a lot of money when you're not uninsured, or when you're uninsured. Access, $1,500 to $2,200. Huge, huge savings. You're probably asking yourself, what doctor in his right mind would offer these kind of discounts? People show up. People come to their appointments. The doctors can give the care, and the hospitals would much rather have somebody paying part of the bill than none of the bill. And as I said earlier, 1,800 doctors think this is a good enough idea that they signed up just in Reno, Nevada. So I think this is pretty cool. I happen to be fortunate enough to represent Access to Healthcare Network and Sherry Rice, their CEO, and their fabulous board of directors. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, you can take a look at their recognitions, awards, and distinctions, and their testimonials. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to read a couple of those from one of the providers. I've been most impressed with how Access helps people return to a normal life. Many of my patients basically are non-functional because of a problem they can't afford to have fixed. They can get that problem solved through Access and go on to live a full life. Employers, this is an owner of 15 McDonald's stores. Access provides us with affordable health care solution that's simple and easy for us to administer. And with a very diverse workforce of 400 plus, that's saying a lot. From a member, the whole package of Access to health care has given my wife and me new hope. The Access staff, the providers, everyone at Access treats us with respect and care. This has been a truly positive experience. So to summarize, why does Access work? Everyone in the game has skin in the game. They're all giving something and receiving something. Hospitals and doctors took an absolute leap of faith that has paid off in the end. Members are held responsible, to the access rules and fees, and again, they retain their dignity. The care coordinators that work with Access also have learned how to specialize in certain diseases. So you get people who have much more knowledge about who the cancer doctors are or whatever it is that you need. Also, with the enrollment process with members, it has to be face-to-face. So this is a community member who is meeting you, not just on the phone, some random 1-800 number, who is meeting you face-to-face to enroll you in the program. They also got technologically savvy, and they're doing Skype enrollment, so there's still technological face-to-face. They also have an incredible staff and a leader in Sherry Rice. And Sherry likes to say, when we saw a need, we did one more thing. And then we saw another need, and then we did another thing. We saw another need, and we did another thing. That's how you solve the problem of the uninsured. At least that's how it's working in Nevada. Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy. Phil, why don't we go on with your presentation, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you. I'm here representing the Foundation for Health Coverage Education. It's a program that's a nonprofit that was put together by us out in the Silicon Valley. Our advisory board is Carly Fiorina, Leonard Schaefer, who started WellPoint from scratch, made the 32nd largest company in the United States, Dave Helwig, who was the CEO of WellPoint Anthem, and an esteemed professor of economics named Alan Enthoven. Oh, you got to start over. Sorry. Oh, here we go. I didn't have it on. Starting over. Okay. I'm here representing the Foundation for Health Coverage Education. We're in the Silicon Valley in California. We've put together a very high-tech, low-cost solution to the uninsured problems in the United States. Our board of directors includes Carly Fiorina, who was the CEO of Hewlett-Packard, Leonard Schaefer, who was part of the Carter administration, but also started WellPoint from scratch, became the 32nd largest company in the United States, Dave Helwig, who ran that company, and Alan Enthoven, an esteemed healthcare economist at Stanford, who was also Undersecretary of Defense. The problem we saw is that a lot of the uninsured are eligible for programs and they're not aware. And so what we did is put the entire United States healthcare system online. Over 3 million Americans have used it, and it's been around for a long time. Through the power of technology, FHCE enables people who need health care obtain it. There's 16.9 million Americans who are eligible for publicly funded programs and not signed up. They're using the emergency room as their primary care. They go in the emergency room, they get taken care of, and then they leave. And the emergency room cannot collect because they're not there and they don't have the money to pay anyway. And so, with a mission to provide simplified public and private health insurance eligibility information, the FHCE enables us as a nation to know and control our costs, prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, and allocate the total cost of health care properly and accurately. And we do this because we do eligibility at point of care. So when someone comes into the hospital, it takes 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The whole United States is online, all 50 states and the District of Columbia. The administrator asks the questions. They see what they're eligible for. It can be confirmed online, and then the hospital or doctor gets reimbursed immediately. In California, we have 27,400 employees whose job it is to sign people up for Medicaid, which is called Medi-Cal in California, welfare and food stamps, and all of the eligibility is pretty much the same. It's based on what county you live in and also how much money you make or don't make, your federal poverty level. Those 27,000 employees cost California about $110,000 each per year. That's $3 billion being spent on administration, not one nickel of which goes to health care. With point-of-care reimbursement and point-of-care eligibility, we empower the individual to understand that they have coverage if they're eligible. They no longer need to go to the emergency room for everything. All they simply need to do is show up at a doctor's office or a clinic. It takes 2 minutes to figure out, and then we know what's going on. Once we collect all that data, for the very first time in American history, we're going to be able to budget our health care costs. We're going to know what we're spending money on. We're going to know if all the procedures and everything that are being done are worth it, and will lower immediately the uninsured by 17 million people if they go on this program. Right now we have 50 states trying to create the exchange. The exchange is already done, and we've had it on there for 7 years. And it works, and people love it. Hospitals, doctors. In fact, some of our partners are the most prestigious names in healthcare. We have the American Cancer Society, who works with us. They take 1.2 million calls a year from people who just found out they have cancer. And one of the questions they asked is, do you have health insurance? And before they started working with us, they really had no answer. They just said, oh, that's too bad, or, maybe we could, But now the American Cancer Society either refers them to our 800 U.S. uninsured helpline, where we answer the phone for people and do it on the phone for the people who don't have access to the internet. And so they're referring anybody who has cancer who's uninsured to us, and we find coverage right away. The American Diabetes Association, heart, lung, blood, all of them refer to us. But then what really was interesting is the hospitals started using it. So now the hospitals, when people come in the emergency room, are doing the 2-minute quiz, and they're seeing for the very first time, not that this person who came in the emergency room was uninsured, but who should have been liable, who didn't pay when they were supposed to pay. In California, CHARP hospitals, that's 4 hospitals in San Diego with 4 emergency rooms, over a period of a year asked 20,000 uninsured patients the eligibility quiz as they came in the emergency room. 80.2% were eligible for public programs and not signed up. 80.2%. Amazingly, 99.7% were eligible for something, and this is before health care reform. So people don't know what they're eligible for. Not all the other people who would have had to buy a plan could afford it. So we do need policy. We do need to confront these issues. But 80.2%. So we called the Medicaid office in San Diego 50 times during working hours. After all, we're spending $3 billion a year in California. They answered the phone 15 times out of 50 times during working hours. 35 times you couldn't leave a message, and they didn't answer. The 15 times that they did answer, you had an average time on hold of 22 minutes with the longest time on hold of 48 minutes. $3 billion a year, 80.2% of the people who come in the emergency room, where it costs 5 times what it costs to go to a doctor or a clinic, are eligible for these programs and not signed up. It's wrong. With our technology,
on this vote, the yeas 392, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Without objection, the title is amended. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Alaska, Mr. Young, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1160 as amended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 1160. A bill to require the Secretary of the Interior to convey the McKinney Lake National Fish Hatchery to the state of North Carolina and for other purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? The members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
The last vote of the day about conveying the McKinney Lake National Fish Hatchery in Richmond, North Carolina to the state of North Carolina. The Deficit Reduction Committee plans to meet on Wednesday, hearing again from Congressional Budget Office Director Douglas Elmendorf. Politico writing that in just 6 weeks, nearly 200 companies and special interests have reported that they're lobbying the 12-member supercommittee. It's a stunning ratio of lobbyists to lawmakers, but makes sense when you consider the high stakes faced by interests ranging from the healthcare industry to Native American tribes. The groups fear that the supercommittee will find $1.2 trillion in deficit reduction before Thanksgiving by cutting their funding or raising their taxes. We spoke with a reporter about the Deficit Reduction Committee.
Joining us live on Capitol Hill is Meredith Shiner. Her story about this so-called super committee that's keeping up with another series of meetings, including a public session this week. Meredith Shiner, thanks as always for being with us here on C-SPAN Radio.
And thanks as always for having me.
And as we talked last time, we pointed out that there have been more closed-door meetings than open sessions, but on Wednesday it will be a public meeting. What can we expect?
Well, so you're going to get a similar face. You're going to get the CBO director, Elmendorf. He's going to come back to the Hill. Last time he talked generally about budget numbers. This time it's going to be focused on discretionary spending, which is important in one way because entitlements and revenues, when you're talking about those social programs the Democrats are looking to protect and tax increases the Republicans are loath to agree to, discretionary spending is a lot of the places where you're going to have to see cuts being made. So that will be an interesting session because you might hear lawmakers staking out their position on which programs they'd like to protect and drawing attention to them by mentioning them. On the other hand, you're not really going to be addressing those big issues like entitlements and tax reforms, which seem to be where the sticking points are. So it mostly will be informational. It'll be one of those things that C-SPAN viewers, for example, would enjoy to watch because it'll get into some policy details. But in terms of what's actually happening, the progress being made, you have only a few weeks left to go before this deadline to report something. And there's not that much indication that serious progress has been made behind closed doors.
And I want to talk to you about those deadlines in just a moment, but in addition to this Wednesday public meeting, another round of closed-door meetings Tuesday and Wednesday as well. What's on that agenda?
So the super committee will be meeting again tomorrow afternoon. It will be a full panel meeting. Last week you saw several Democrats-only, Republicans-only meetings. I've been hearing some word, but again, lawmakers have been extraordinarily tight-lipped, and so have the staffers around them, that there's still some disagreement over where to set the baseline in order to move forward, which affects how much in savings you'd actually have to find to hit your target. There has been not as much indication as you'd like to see at this point that there's been any sort of agreement, especially on those sticking points we talked about earlier, like revenues. But one of the things that is important to keep in mind is that although Thanksgiving is the formal deadline for them to report and for them to vote on something, the Congressional Budget Office has said in order to score the legislation or to actually, substantiate and confirm the amount of cuts that lawmakers are saying that they would make, they would start to need to see pieces of that legislation by early November. And we're already inching towards the end of October. So we're going to have to see some products coming out in order to know that this is going somewhere. And what the committee has said and what the rules has said is that if they have found agreements, if they're taking votes on anything, that process will be public. So I don't know when that transition is going to happen, but certainly if they're going to come to an agreement, some sort of detail about that is going to have to come out soon.
The full name of the committee is the Joint Committee on Deficit Reduction, and a number of the committee members, including Congressman Chris Van Hollen, have been talking about going big, going beyond the $1.5 trillion that this committee has been mandated to cut from the federal budget over the next 10 years. But when you go big, what does that mean?
Well, so when you hear lawmakers say go big, I think they're talking about more than the $1.2 trillion target that they need to satisfy under the Budget Control Act rules that had established the super committee in the first place. So you're talking about a plan that does embrace entitlement reform, that does embrace revenue raisers, that does embrace cutting over the next decade, and they're talking on a $3 trillion, $4 trillion scale. But the truth of the matter is that we've heard that sort of language before, whether it was from the Senate bipartisan Gang of Six, whether it was when the President and Speaker John Boehner were trying to negotiate a grand bargain twice this summer. It's hard. It's very, very difficult with the current political climate in Washington to go big. But it's a good message to put out there because in case this panel does deadlock, and there are a lot of skeptical folks around Washington who think that might happen, at least there's a fallback for these lawmakers to try to present the case effort, and they wanted to tackle these issues that were tough, even from their own party's perspective.
We're talking with Meredith Shiner of Roll Call.
395, the nays are 0. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. I need some help with the states. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to be removed as a co-sponsor from H.R. 2966.
Without objection. The House will be in order. So please clear the well of the House. The chair is prepared to entertain one-minute requests. Members will please take their conversations from the floor and clear the well of the House. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend.
Without objection. The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was reported today that President Obama is trying out a new slogan on his campaign-style road trip. The slogan is, "We can't wait." Well, in my opinion, this slogan is an odd choice, especially coming from the President and his party. Right now, 15 different House-passed jobs bills, each reducing the red tape that is hindering small business, each remove obstacles to domestic energy production, are stuck in the Senate awaiting action from the Democrat leadership. Mr. Speaker, the President is right. We can't wait. We can't wait for the President and Democrats to join us in eliminating excessive government regulations, stopping Washington from spending money it doesn't have, and fixing the tax code for families and job creators. We can't wait for the Obama administration to end the continual delays to job-creating domestic energy production. We can't wait for Senate Democrats to approve more than a dozen House-passed jobs bills. Americans who want to get back to work shouldn't have to wait any longer for Washington to get out of the way. It's time for President Obama and the Senate Democrats to put aside politics and work with the House on these common-sense ideas. We simply can't wait. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise? The gentleman will suspend. Members, please take their conversations from the floor of the House. Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor the memory of Dr. Herbert Hauptman, a distinguished member of the Western New York community. Dr. Hauptman came to Buffalo in 1970 to work for the Medical Foundation. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1985 for his work determining the molecular structures of crystallized materials. His studies in this area provided a new way to look at chemistry that benefits science and society today. After earning the Nobel Prize, the Medical Foundation was renamed in his honor. Today, the lobby of Huttman Woodward Medical Research Institute showcases the crystallized molecular structures Huttman introduced to the world. They will stand as a lasting testimony to his work. Herbert Huttman's contributions helped lay the groundwork for a thriving and growing medical research community in Buffalo and Western New York. I invite my colleagues to join me in celebrating the life of a scholar whose impact was felt far beyond academia. I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, the House in a bipartisan way passed 5 energy bills months ago. These bills will create American energy jobs right here in America. These bills would allow more energy development in the Gulf of Mexico, in Virginia, and in Alaska. One bill requires the administration to make a decision about the Keystone XL pipeline, which would put more citizens to work. So what's the delay? These 5 bipartisan bills are languishing in the Senate with no vote in sight. It's not that the Senate has voted these jobs bills down. The Senate just won't vote. To my friends down the hallway in the Senate, how about voting on these bills? Doing nothing doesn't create energy or jobs. Doing nothing maintains unemployment and shows inability to make a decision. Time for the Senate to pick a horse and ride it, but pick something. Get in the race. Being a spectator is not an option. The American people need the jobs, and we need the energy. We just can't wait. And that's just the way it is.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from New York seek recognition? Without objection. The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our nation is facing a crisis with respect to public safety. Over 1,100 bridges in New York State, my state alone, are considered fracture critical. Fracture critical bridges can collapse if a single one of their key support functions fails, and there's 82 such bridges in my district alone. Every day, 21 million cars in my state cross structurally deficient bridges, creating an intolerable situation. As the former county clerk responsible for putting vehicles and people on the roads, this is personal to me. I feel compelled to fight for money from Washington to fix our bridges and our roads and bring them up to par. There is a solution, Mr. Speaker, and that is the American Jobs Act, which includes money for critically necessary infrastructure to repair these bridges so our driving public can travel safely. Therefore, I urge all my colleagues to support me in supporting the American Jobs Act and getting our country back to work while making the public safer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute and provide consent.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I had the privilege of meeting with job creators and workers from all across Illinois' 10th Congressional District. As I listened to the different barriers they were facing and the ideas they had to bring jobs to the region, I was encouraged. Together we can and must find common ground on legislation that allows small business owners to create jobs. I was pleased to join with Lake County Partners last week and announce the creation of a new economic innovation zone in North Chicago. This community is experiencing extremely high unemployment, and the creation of this economic innovation zone will bring the community together so that we can work collaboratively to find ways to reinvest in the area and create new opportunities for workers. I was also able to work with local leaders from the city of Waukegan to find a way to move forward on the repairs that are needed so desperately in Waukegan Harbor. We must move forward to delist this as an area of concern for the U.S. EPA. This harbor is key to bringing business and bolstering the economy for the surrounding communities. When we work to preserve our precious resources like the harbor, we will be able to encourage businesses to expand and to create additional jobs here at home.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Florida seek recognition?
I would like to revise and extend my remarks.
Without any objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and God bless America. And today I would like to say a special thanks to the many branches of government for their service, military, but particularly to the Marines. And today, the Moffett Point Marines are visiting with us in the Capitol. And many years before Jackie Robinson and decades before Rosa Parks, these heroes joined the Marines to defend their country and do their jobs. I applaud them for their commitment. Tomorrow, the House will debate and vote to send the resolution to the Senate in time for the Marines' 236th birthday on November 10th. When the commander and I discussed what do you do when failure is not an option, we agreed you get it done. We will pass this bill in the House. I want to thank all of my colleagues. You can still sign on to the bill. You have until the end of tomorrow. You want to be a part of making history. I want to once again thank the Moffett Point Marine for their service, and God bless America. Thank you.
Gentlelady's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
Speaker, I request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I rise today with concern about an incident that occurred at the United States Penitentiary in Lee. Lee County, Virginia, in the 9th District. This incident occurred Friday night, and the only good news is no one was killed. Aaron Delph, officer there, was assaulted by an inmate who was carrying a shiv. He was able, in the conflict, to kick off a phone which sent out a silent alarm. He was responded to, that alarm was responded to by Sean Jones, who was also injured in the assault. Both of these men behaved properly and acted bravely. What did they have to defend themselves with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because our regulations and rules do not allow them to have pepper spray or a telescoping baton to defend themselves with. H.R. 1175, introduced by Congressman Cardoza, would at least get us a pilot project which would allow us to take care of this problem. I ask that we pass this. Thank you very much.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to talk about something happy, and that is the Happy Sad Pillow that is made by the parents of Avance in my district. With this toy, a parent can teach numbers, cause and effect, colors, emotions, motor skills, social skills, and textures. I was fortunate enough to be with them today. They have a very healthy Head Start program, but we were able to give them $8 million in stimulus to help their infrastructure to build new buildings, and then a $3.2 million grant for a healthy marriage that helps grandparents and single parents to be able to raise up our children that are preschool. It is noted that the children that go through this program test higher scores than those who have not and do much better in the public school system. It also evidences that the government can be a partnership, a private-public partnership to make America great. We can create jobs, we can improve the education, we can lay out a pathway for our children. There's nothing wrong with the government being productive and forceful in working on behalf of the American people. So, to the Congress here, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, let's work together. I yield back.
The lady's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask permission to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to congratulate the 2011 UN International Volunteer Award recipient, Dr. Animesh Sinha, who is a native of Irmo, South Carolina. Dr. Sinha is a general practitioner in Fiji, where he is the founder and medical director of the PRISM Health Initiative. PRISM provides medical care and access to the most underserved populations of Fiji. By providing its own tables, chairs, water gallons, medical equipment, and free medication, PRISM makes a difference. Due to Dr. Sinha's leadership, 200 to 400 patients a week are being treated in the most remote communities of Fiji. Congratulations also to my lifelong friends, his parents, Dr. Kausal Sinha and his wife Arunima, who are revered community leaders of the mid-state of South Carolina. Indian Americans are making a difference around the globe, encouraged by the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism.
Gentleman yields back. Are there any further requests for 1 minute speeches? Okay. The chair lays before the House the following personal requests.
Leaves of absence requested for Ms. Burkle of New York for today, Mr. Davis of Illinois for today, Mr. Royce of California for today, Mr. Sessions of Texas for today, and Ms. Sewell of Alabama for today.
Without objection, the requests are granted. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5, 2011, the gentlewoman from the Virgin Islands, Ms. Christensen, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I expect to be joined by several of my colleagues in a few minutes, but let me begin. We're pleased, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the Democratic leader for, again, allowing the Congressional Black Caucus to control this hour of special orders. And here we are again, Mr. Speaker, 10 months into this Congress and not one job-creating bill has been brought to the floor. I know that the people in my district are suffering, as our constituents in all of our districts, and we need to do something significant to help them, not next year, but now. As a physician, it amazes me that it's even affecting people's health. It's increasing violence and crime in some of the hardest-hit communities. When we were here a few weeks ago, I was remarking on an article that showed how the mortgage crisis was affecting people's health adversely. But of course, joblessness is. People don't have insurance, they don't have money to buy their medication, they're putting off needed health care to try to save money for other things, to provide a roof over their family's head and food on the table for their families. And so this long-term unemployment is affecting people's health. And it's especially hard in those communities that have been distressed for long periods of time, even before this recession. With no movement from the leadership in this body to even just bring the American Jobs Act to the floor where we can debate it and have it voted on, the people are really beginning to lose hope. To the extent that some have not yet lost hope, I think it's because they see President Obama and this Congressional Black Caucus, as well as the Occupy Wall Street and Occupy all of the other places where those demonstrations are being held, and the Reclaim the Dream movement, all working relentlessly on their behalf. Today, the President is rolling out his new proposals excuse me, to address the crisis that began this recession in the first place, the mortgage crisis. I understand the theme is we can't wait. And well, we can't wait here in this House either, because the American people have been waiting on us for help, and they can't and should not have to wait any longer. I hope that my colleagues across the aisle would also add a strong dose of compassion to their passion for reducing the deficit. In fact, at this time, in addition to compassion, setting politics aside and doing what's best for the economy in our country is what needs to take precedence. And if it is not cuts, it's not repealing the health care reform bill, the Affordable Care Act. It's not stopping regulations that protect the health and wealth of the people in this country. And it's not destroying the safety nets that enable the poor to survive and then provide them with the chance to lift them and their families out of poverty. Not just Democrats, we should all be ashamed that so much of this country's wealth is concentrated in the top 1%, while our fellow Americans, including millions of children, are going homeless and hungry. I want to focus for a moment on health care jobs, especially since the Affordable Care Act, a job creator, is on the Republican chopping block. If it was repealed, it would not only set health care back, but it would place a heavy burden on an already hard-hit economy. Already we know that the healthcare sector is the only one where jobs are being created. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, of the next decade's 30 fastest growing jobs, 17 of them, more than half of them, will be healthcare related. They also report that during the recession, while most industries lost jobs, healthcare added over 600,000 jobs. With an anticipated coverage of over 30 million new individuals, it isn't rocket science to see how the Affordable Care Act doesn't kill jobs, but will be the sector to bring this economy back to life. The provisions in that act are projected to create more than 4 million jobs over the next 10 years. What we need to be doing now is what the President has called for, improving math and science in our schools, and then we should be providing education and training for those jobs on all levels, from the community health workers to doctors, nurses, and allied health, to the most technical jobs in research and technology. And many of those jobs are available right now. They will just increase over the next 10 years. I want to read from Healthcare Employment Set to Explode, which was published in Fierce Healthcare just on October 20th of this year. And I'm quoting here. It reads, amid Healthcare reform changes to promote healthcare integration and national deficit reduction to save healthcare jobs are projected to soar, according to a report by Bipartisan Policy Center Health Professional Workforce Initiative with the Deloitte Workforce Initiative released on the Tuesday of that week. Healthcare employment is expected to rise to 11.9% in 2018, and that means the total healthcare employment will jump from 15.8 million where it was in 2008 to 19.8 million in 2018, according to that report. From 2008 and 2018, healthcare employment will grow by 23%, compared to only 9% in all other employment sectors, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. During that time, healthcare professionals will see the following changes in job growth. Registered nurses will grow by 22.2%. Licensed practical and licensed vocational nurses will grow by 20.7%. Home health aides will grow by 50%. Nursing aides, orderlies, and attendants would grow by 18.8%. Personal and home care aides would grow by 46%, and physicians and surgeons by 21.8%. There have been so many misrepresentations about the bill from its opponents, both inside of Congress and out. And it's not fair to the American public, who at the very least ought to be able to depend on their elected representatives for accurate information, and then they ought to be able to expect us to act on that accurate information. There are some analyses that suggest that the effect on the economy will be minimal. And even though I do not agree, I want to read from the conclusion of one such paper, and that paper is entitled, "How Will the Affordable Care Act Affect Jobs? A Timely Analysis of Immediate Health Policy Issues," and it's written by a John Holohan and a Bowen Garrett. And I think it helps to dispel some of the erroneous representations about what the Affordable Care Act would or would not do. In its conclusion, they write, "The Affordable Care Act is unlikely to have major aggregate effects on the U.S. economy. But they also say the increased spending because of the Affordable Care Act will increase demand for health services and demand for labor in the health sector. Cuts in Medicare and various cost containment provisions, if successful, as proposed by the Ryan Plan, would have just the opposite effect. It would kill jobs. The new taxes on insurers, medical devices, and pharmaceutical manufacturers could have adverse effects on those industries, except for the fact, they say, that coverage expansion would provide new revenues well in excess of any new tax obligations. Cost containment efforts, if successful, will have the opposite effects. Reducing growth in spending on Medicare and Medicaid. So cost containment efforts, if successful, will have somewhat opposite effects, reducing the growth in spending on Medicare and Medicaid, which will reduce the taxes or borrowing the federal government would have to undertake. Cost containment, then, that reduces the federal budget deficit would result in faster economic growth, more employment, and higher family incomes. Cost containment would also free up private dollars to be spent in non-health areas of the economy, thus stimulating the economy in many ways. They also go on to say that concern over the impact of the Affordable Care Act on small businesses is misplaced. All small businesses with fewer than 50 workers will be exempt from the assessments. Most larger firms already provide health insurance to their workers and so are unlikely to face assessments under the new law. Small businesses, they go on to say, should benefit from the availability of lower cost plans and the efforts to increase competition and contain costs within the exchange. So I hope that begins to clear some of the misrepresentations up about how that bill would hurt the economy, because it would not kill jobs, it would not hurt small businesses, and it's not likely to have a great impact on the larger businesses either. You know, the Congressional Black Caucus purpose in coming to the floor every Monday night that we're in session is to call attention to the issues we know are important to our constituents and are important to Americans across this country. The primary one is jobs. But access to health care is not far behind, and we ought to support rather than misrepresent or try to appeal. We should support the Affordable Care Act, a good bill that's good for the American people, good for our economy, and good for our country. And we're once again calling on this body to pass the American Jobs Act. The fact that it comes from President Obama should not be a reason to dismiss it and declare it dead on arrival, as some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have said. After all, many of the proposals come directly out of bills that they themselves have proposed. So I would say to my colleagues, please, the American people are sick of the politics. They're sick of the bickering. They need jobs now. They can't wait. We should not wait. Let's pass the Jobs Act now. And I don't see that I have any of my other colleagues joining me this evening. So I am ready to yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman yields back. Okay. For what purposes did the gentlelady from the Virgin Island rise?
I move that the House is now adjourned, Mr. Speaker.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted, and accordingly, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow for the morning hour debate.
So that wraps up today's House session. But when members return on Tuesday, we